Welcome to Snyder's Music Biz News on this very cold, wintry day. The first thing I wanted to bring up is that Sony has announced that it is the end of an era, Sony, to stop production of recordable Blu-ray discs. You might not be using Blu-ray a whole lot as far as your music production goes. Some of you still might be using mini-discs and mini DV cassettes. There was a little time there that they were popular in recording studios, like DAT tapes. It was around the same time as DAT tapes, digital audio tapes. And so they're not going to make those anymore. Sony has announced it's going to quit. And with the public increasingly favoring streaming services over physical media, commercial sales have declined, making it seem unsustainable for Sony to continue in its optical media business. The announcement sparked anger among physical media fans, with many expressing concerns about the imminent death of Blu-ray discs. However, it's important to note the distinction between home recordable media, BDR and BDRE discs, and professionally replicated Blu-ray movies sold in stores. The latter is still unaffected by Sony's decision to phase out home recordable discs, so you could still get a Blu-ray version of Aliens or something like that. As the digital age continues to evolve, Sony's decision reflects the broader shift towards streaming and digital storage solutions, signaling the end of an era for physical media enthusiasts. But that leads to another article that I read. Blu-ray is dying, so I believe it's now time for obsolete tape to shine again, in the strangest of ironies. Sony announced it's shutting down Blu-ray media production forever. So is tape the alternative? Some of you might have heard about LTO, which stands for Linear Tape Open, and it's magnetic tape data storage that is used for backing up data. It's still linear. It still has to pass over something to pull the data off the tape. So we're not talking about real-time recording and playback. But for long-term data storage, tape might be the answer. Of course, there's other potential formats, like I mentioned in the previous episode about using DNA as data storage, and ceramic and silica and holographic mediums. But according to this article, there's only one tried and trusted media remaining on the market, the granddaddy of them all, the old G, the old gangster, the venerable but still very much alive tape, more specifically LTO, Linear Tape Open. Yes, that very technology optical drives were supposed to eliminate. And it's used for long-term cold storage in data centers and enterprises. It has the backing of some of the biggest tech companies in the world, and it's not going away anytime soon. LTO media is very cheap, less than $5 a terabyte, which is really, really cheap. And it can be stored easily and has a lifespan of up to 30 years. So, that's the latest in any kind of data storage. The bad news again for you studio owners, your mini disc recorders and players, you're not going to be able to find any media for that, recordable media in the future. So keep that in mind. My second topic is about how it's not just musicians who are having to deal with copyright issues, especially with their record labels. Legal exposure. This one rock music photographer has filed more than 50 copyright lawsuits. A new case against Warner Records is just the latest in a campaign of lawsuits against UMG, Spotify, Ticketmaster, Motley Crue, and many others. Neil, and I'm just going to say Z, I don't know how to pronounce his name, A veteran rock photographer who snapped images of Led Zeppelin, the Stones, Jackson, Springsteen, is suing Warner Records over a Facebook post featuring a picture of Tom Petty. The latest of more than 50 lawsuits the litigious photog has filed over the last 10 years. His lawyers claim the image was posted in 2020 to the official Facebook page for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, which Warner allegedly controls Tom Petty's Facebook page. Warner's alleged failure to employ such copyright protections indicates de facto willful infringement by the company. A key accusation since under U.S. copyright law, willful violations can result in increased damages of up to $150,000 per work. And this guy's lawyers is saying that Warner obviously has lawyers on permanent retainers who should know better than to post copyrighted materials without getting permission or licensing it. The case is hardly the first for Z, who has also photographed Prince, Van Halen, countless other bands and artists over his decade's career. Since 2016, court records show he's filed a whopping 57 copyright lawsuits against a wide range of defendants around the country, demanding monetary damages over the alleged unauthorized use of photographs. Many of his cases targeted media companies including CBS, BuzzFeed, and Vice. He sued UMG once over an image of Elvis Costello and another time over a photo of Guns N' Roses. A different case targeted Ticketmaster, accusing Live Nation unit of using an image of Ozzy guitarist Zakk Wylde. In 2019, he sued the guitar maker Gibson Guitars over claims that the company used a shot of Eddie Van Halen, without his permission. According to federal court records, his lawyer, Leibowitz, represented Z in the vast majority of his copyright cases until 2021. In 2018, his firm filed 9 lawsuits on behalf of the photographer, including one against Spotify, over an image of Motley Crue on the band's artist page. In the year 2019 alone, Leibowitz's firm filed 14 more cases for him, including one against famed indie record store Amoeba Music. One of the earliest cases was filed against Motley Crue, and he accused the band of creating t-shirts and other concert merch for its 2014 final tour that was emblazoned with photos he had snapped of Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee, and other members during Crue's 1980s heyday. But unlike many such defendants, the band fought back. During 2 years of litigation, attorneys for Motley Crue argued that the band had already paid decades earlier for the right to use those images, and that it had continued to use them without objection ever since. Crue also filed its own countersuit accusing Z of infringing their trademarks and likenesses by using the band's name and images to sell books and prints. Z never requested nor received consent to sell photographs depicting the likeness of the band members of Motley Crue. But in 2020, the case against Crue ended, like many of the other ones, in a confidential settlement and voluntary dismissal of the lawsuit without a final ruling. And the terms of the agreement were not disclosed in public. Copyright lawsuits over the unauthorized use of photographs on the internet are extremely common, with hundreds filed in federal courts each year. Photographers and attorneys who bring them say it's their only recourse against rampant online theft of their intellectual property, often by sophisticated companies that should know better. But critics have questioned the tactics of some very litigious photographers and their attorneys, suggesting they're using litigation itself as a business model. Litigation itself is their business model, namely leveraging the threat of huge damages and prohibitive cost to win as many small nuisance settlements as possible. In 2019, a federal judge criticized David Oppenheimer, a North Carolina photographer who filed more than 170 such lawsuits, as detailed by the Assembly. Judge Martin Redinger cited Oppenheimer's big demands in high volume of cases before saying that he appears to be using copyright law as a source of revenue rather than as redress for legitimate injury. Judge Denise Cott, I guess that's how you say her name, labeled the lawyer a copyright troll, which she defined as someone who aims to win quick settlements that are priced just low enough that it makes financial sense to simply pay the troll rather than defend the claim. And that is pretty much a definition of most all lawsuits in the music industry. There are so many lawsuits that you never hear about because it's easier just to pay somebody off than taking them to court and defending yourself, especially if you're a Universal Music Group and you've got billions of dollars anyway. As evidenced by the astonishing volume of filings coupled with an astonishing rate of voluntary dismissals and quick settlements in Mr. Leibowitz's cases in this district, it is undisputable that Mr. Leibowitz is a copyright troll. It should be noted that in 2021, Leibowitz was suspended from practicing law in New York. Photographers are the overwhelming losers in the digital age because they are properly compensated at a fraction of the rate at which their intellectual property is copied and used by others. So you could be using litigation as a business model. You could be a copyright troll, and you see a lot of lawyers doing that. It'd be like ambulance chasers in our industry. But you could also be photographers who see their creations very, very easily copied and distributed all over the internet without ever getting even credit for having taken the pictures. So here's to you photographers, hang in there. And to you musicians, be nice to your brethren who with the cameras. While Spotify infuses AI-generated music into its playlist, as we've discussed in previous episodes, another streamer is doing the exact opposite and is removing AI-created music. Deezer says its new AI detection tool found 10% of songs delivered to the platform are AI created. To support human-made music, the French streaming service says it's now developing a tagging system to remove fully AI tracks from algorithmic recommendations. Deezer, a leading French streaming service, says that roughly 10,000 fully AI-generated tracks are being delivered to the platform every day, equating to about 10% of its daily music delivery. I'm going to read that again. 10,000 fully AI-generated tracks are being delivered to Deezer's platform every day, equating to about 10% of its daily music delivery. This finding emerged from an AI detection tool Deezer developed and filed 2 patent applications for in December. The service is developing a tagging system for fully AI-generated work it detects in order to remove them from its algorithmic and editorial recommendations and boost human-made music. Deezer's new tool can detect AI music from several popular AI music models, including Suno and Udio, with plans to further expand capabilities. Has additional plans to develop the capability to identify deep faked voices. Given that AI-generated music can be made much more quickly than human-created works, critics have expressed concern that these AI tracks will increasingly take away money and editorial opportunities from human artists on streaming services. You have to give kudos to Deezer to doing exactly the opposite of what Spotify is doing, which is infusing a ton of AI-generated music so they can cut down on the amount of royalties they have to pay. But I don't know if taking the high road when it comes to AI-generated music is going to be rewarded, because Spotify's share price reaches new high as music stocks get off to strong start in 2025. Investors are betting there's more gas in Spotify's tank as the streaming company's stock price reached an all-time high on this Friday, January 24th, and finished the week at a record closing price. Friday's closing price valued the company at an increase of $5 billion more in 1 week. So Spotify seems to be doing okay, while our good friends at Deezer, not so much. The worst performer of the week was Deezer, which fell 7.3% to $1.21. Deezer shares have fallen 46.5% over the last 52 weeks and are already down 14.2% in 2025. So the announcement that they were effectively tracking AI-generated, fully generated music and removing it from Deezer hasn't helped them in the market. Matter of fact, it seems that Spotify, because of its embracing of AI, as well as a new agreement with Universal Music Group, has shot through the roof. So hang in there, Deezer. I appreciate what you've done, but you might want to rethink about infusing more AI-generated music if you want to stay in business. Tough times for Deezer. So now for Jonesy's catshit crazy pick. So all this talk about AI makes you think that AI is actually a singular entity, just almost a person. And so how do you imagine AI would look like? And so Jonesy thinks it resembles this AI from the 1960s. Freddie Ford isn't very old, but he can see, hear, and answer questions. He is also an awfully big fellow, standing 8 feet 6 inches tall, in his bare feet and tipping the scales at 500 pounds. Freddie is a second-generation mechanical robot, or AI, is one of the highlights of the Ford division exhibit at auto shows around the country. And like the earlier models, the new Freddie Ford is made up largely of parts from Ford division products. It even has a television camera in his nose, so he can see whom he is talking to. So, all right, so Ford scraped all of its cars and took all of these scrapes, this data, if you will, and put together Freddie Ford, this AI. And it is AI because it's equipped with a console, and if you push any of 12 buttons, will provide an answer from Freddie to such questions as, what is meant by walk softly and carry a big stick? And AI, or Freddie Ford, will answer, the quotation is really, drive softly and carry a big 6. You see, a new bigger 250 horsepower 6 is standard on Torinos and optional for Mustangs. So this is our first real good look at what AI looks like. And it was artificial, and it was smart enough to give answers from a very narrow scraping of data from the Ford company, relating everything, of course, to Mustangs and Gran Torinos. So now that you have an idea of what OG of AI look like, you can only imagine what AI must look like now. And also why it doesn't allow its picture to be taken, because it's very, very scary as it takes over mankind and pushes human music out of the streamers. So hopefully this doesn't give you nightmares. Thanks for watching, and be sure and like and subscribe and all those things. Thanks.